A little bit of a new law, a little bit of a new legislation has arrived on the docket today, and more specifically in the UK. A lot of people have been talking about this because it is kind of a pretty big deal. It is kind of a big thing, especially in like the YouTube content creation space for people who specifically live in the UK. And what's happening is that the UK Parliament is effectively trying to look at policies, look at laws that will make it so that they're allowed to force YouTube to, I guess, effectively change their algorithm entirely to make it so that the algorithm favors and forces mainstream media a lot more often, like, traditional media like the BBC a lot more often to people in the UK rather than just like independent, smaller content creators. Let me tell you, it took a good amount of deal for me to find anyone who's actually posting about like what YouTube like sent to people warning them about this bill. Because I'd go into people's accounts who like were posting about it to like kind of like see if they posted any more about it. And half of the people who were talking about this were like saying like, oh, and this is why we need to make it so that we can't have any more immigrants in our country. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So it took me a little bit to find the gist of this, but I think I found the gist of this, and I think I found people who are actually like posting about this like a normal human being. And I also was able then to find the law. This guy right here kind of posted what YouTube sent to. I'm assuming UK-based content creators. I don't know if anyone else outside the UK got it because it doesn't really affect them. But it's basically saying that the UK government is trying to basically do consulting and consultation for potentially passing a law that makes it so that they're able to affect the YouTube algorithm. And basically, they then summarize the proposed rules. People who are independent content creators will have their content downranked, where it requires digital platforms like YouTube to give, I guess, privileged position is what they're saying, to traditional broadcasters like the BBC, ITV, and Channel 4. And so it would push this group forward, downranking legitimately any other like non-mainstream traditional broadcasters like the BBC. And it makes it so that the algorithm doesn't favor independent content creators a lot more. It would reduce exposure to diverse content and independent creators because if it only focuses on established media networks, it also says that like mandating this change would push down the line any sort of independent journalists, educators, and digital first businesses in terms of the algorithm. It would threaten people's channel reach and growth. It would undermine the creator audience bond by basically making it so that it tries to imply that independent content creators are less trustworthy than established media enterprises. And then it explains like what and how for content creators to get involved in this process and how to get word out to the UK government explaining why they think this is a dog shit idea and this is like a stupid idea to give prominent media corporations a leg up when it comes to social media algorithms. And so this is like a pretty stupid idea. I think this is a pretty bad idea because it just tries to undermine like any sort of independent content creator in any capacity. Now, I feel like just kind of giving favorable treatment to established media corporations is not really a good idea. I think it just is dumb and also like goes against the idea of like social media platforms when it comes to the fact that the point of like YouTube and all their social medias is that like it could be like a one dude who's making content that a lot of people enjoy and not these massive media corporations that just kind of happen to be on it because that's where a lot of people are. And so I wanted to go to the actual law that was posted and like kind of figure out what they were trying to justify and what they're trying to say was the reasoning for why they're trying to push these laws to be put through. And it's kind of what I expected for them to try and like say and trying to justify this potential law being passed. But they basically like say that like the current like establishment media is really trustworthy, very high quality and very good and awesome. And that is trustworthy and has rigorous standards to check it and make sure that they're doing the right stuff. And then they say that these benefits that they have that we get from these established media corporations are under threat or under pressure in today's media environment, where like these small number of media corporations have been effectively put under pressure for an explosion of a lot of different channels, a lot of different content. And it seems that like a lot of people who have traditionally consumed media content on like the TV have now just gone to the digital social media age and have favored social media instead of traditional media. And they said that like their goals with this consultation is to foster a healthy information environment with trustworthy news that's easy to find, ensure audiences can continue to enjoy universal access to trusted and high quality television content and benefit from our modern digital society more broadly, support our public service media providers who sit at the heart of our domestic TV industry ecosystem, driving growth and inward investment. And another reason why they think that they kind of try to explain why they're making this consultation or they're doing this entire process, it's kind of been like this idea of supporting a healthy information environment where this basically just goes into the fact that social media and like online media in the digital age and like a lot of independent journalism or just independent content creators overall has made it so that people are able to, I guess, say a lot more and like information's a lot more readily accessible and there's a lot more of a variety of information that's readily accessible. And as a result, they believe that, this kind of allows people to get a lot of information, sure, but they believe that it also threatens people's abilities to get the correct information and get accurate information, as they say, like, multiple times here, like, right here, and then throughout this long explanatory, executive summary and summary about what they're trying to do with this consultation. And then they also, like, kind of highlight the changing of, like, current modern TV distribution, like establishment TV distribution, by saying that, like, the TV landscape is shifting from traditional broadcast to online, like, on-demand viewing. And so this means that they kinda have to, like, support this transfer, and, like, how there's less and less people who are viewing the news on, like, TV than there has been in the past. And so I think this is, like, a really objectively stupid, dumb rule that, or, like, law that they're trying to pass, that makes no sense really in any capacity. It seems like what they're trying to do is just, I guess, ride the coattails of, like, the BBC and all the other, like, established news broadcast organizations in the UK. And, like, I know they're obviously, like, they're trying to make it seem like it's a benevolent thing that they're doing with, like, trying to say that they're gonna fight misinformation. They're trying to make sure that accurate facts get across. And, like, I don't think that works from any side of the media spectrum. I'm pretty sure both sides say, like mainstream media, as people have called it, establishment media, as they've called it, people have gotten less and less trust from these, like, establishment corporations. I think, like, them trying to argue like this is the only way that people can get accurate information is not really true, because who's to say that these massive corporations of, like, media empires are also going to give the most accurate information? It feels like they're just kind of reacting in, like, a rash way to less and less people actually watching the news and watching the media overall, that they've decided that they're going to try in an attempt to force people to watch these corporations by, once again, giving them favorable treatment on social media platforms, which, like I've said, it kind of goes against the fundamental idea of social media platforms and social media, especially like YouTube. Anyone can do anything on this platform. Anyone can be a news, like, source. Like, we had the rise of Philip DeFranco or whatever. He was like the news guy or whatever, where you just, like, ask, like, what do you think, and all that stuff like that. I haven't watched him in a while, so I don't know if that's accurate anymore. I don't really know what Philly do. The idea is that you can't really force establishment broadcasters on to people on YouTube, because, like, that's, like, specifically what they're trying to avoid when it comes to YouTube. I don't think anyone's, like, massive and majority of their media consumption on, like, YouTube or stuff like that is gonna be, like, news, like the BBC or something like that. I'd be kind of surprised. It'd be kind of weird. It kind of feels like they're just specifically targeting, like, smaller or independent news corporations, or just independent content creators overall, because they see them as a threat to, like, the media empires, like the BBC or Channel 4 or stuff like that, rather than actually, like, solving a problem. If they wanted to, like, target misinformation, they would just, like, invest more money into targeting misinformation, or, like, making sure that people can't just, like, fucking lie on the internet or spread AI false information or anything like that, rather than just focusing on making it so that they can shove down a bunch of people in order to favor these massive corporations. I feel like that'd be objectively the better way to go about it here. It doesn't really make any sense, and it feels like it's just a direct attack on, like, any sort of content creators on YouTube in any capacity. It doesn't really make any sense to me in any way. And so it's kind of just like, how receptive is the UK Parliament to this issue? Now, I feel like they had the under 16 social media ban go through that a lot of people weren't happy about. And, like, that's also something that people don't like in the United States as well, where it's just like, we're like, it's under the guise of, like, protecting kids on the internet, but it actually just feels like a massive aggregation of, like, people's information, where, like, you also have to prove that you're above 16 rather than just, like, saying that you're below 16. So that's another law I'm pretty sure in the UK is going through. And I'm pretty sure we're having stuff like that in the United States as well. And that a lot of people aren't happy about this in any capacity. I really don't know if the UK Parliament and lawmakers are going to be receptive to any sort of criticism on this social media thing, because, once again, they've already fucked over a lot of people when it comes to a different type of social media thing. And this is just, like, an objectively stupid thing to do. And it feels like there's, like, sucking the dick of established media corporations, just because, they believe them to be bastions of British society, and that they need to protect them at every single possible opportunity. And if they don't, then I guess, misinformation will run rampant, even though it kind of already does. I'm kind of interested to see, like, how this time develops, because I'm pretty sure this, like, consultation thing and this announcement came out, like, today. So I'm kind of interested to see how this goes over time, with just every single human being mad about this. Every single person kind of being mad that, they're trying to fuck over just a lot of, like, independent content creators, rather than just saying that, like, maybe we have to move on, or, like, maybe we have to accept that people have moved on from traditional media sources. I don't really know. We'll see how they try to just say that they're not the biggest idiots of all time when it comes to this really stupid strategy of pushing traditional media. I don't really know. We'll see how it goes. That's really all I want to talk about for today. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.